Hello and welcome to the fifth of our seven encounters in our concrete walks by design in central Edinburgh. My name's John Ennis, curator and producer at Journeys in Design. In fact, this will be the eighth of our Walks by Design series, which you can check out on our website. And we've had a variety of 90-minute loops in Scotland's urban environments. We have Journeys in Design has had sustainability and well-being at its core since inception in 2013. Formerly at Gayfield Creative Spaces off Leith Walk in central Edinburgh, and now unhooking from place and travelling around the country and beyond. You join us here tonight outside the Scottish Poetry Library, and we'll be able to talk about that a little bit in a while. It's a rather fine building and an important one for us tonight. In the whole array of our walks, we've tried to co-design them with local walking enthusiasts. For this particular walk, we've been joined with some wonderful experts. And tonight it gives me great pleasure to be talking to Ruthanne Baxter of the University of Edinburgh Museums. Ruthanne, hello.
Hello, John.
Great to see you. It's true to say our paths have crossed professionally in different ways in the last little while. And as I say, this Scottish Poetry Library, the best resource in the world for Scottish poetry, is close to both our hearts. The building was designed and built in 1999 by Malcolm Fraser Architects, and then went through something of a controversial revision in 2014. And sadly, we lost a pavement sculpture, "By Leaves We Live." Now, anyone who's been tuning into the series will know that that's resonant of Patrick Geddes, one of his quotes. So it's rather lovely that the Scottish Poetry Library have kept that as their Twitter handle.
Yes.
We've been celebrating a variety of things about Patrick Geddes, and we got a lovely chance to speak to Fran Basby, a colleague of yours at the University Library, designed by Basil Spence, that holds the archive of Patrick Geddes. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your role with the Universities of Edinburgh, particularly that wonderful HQ that you get to call your work home, St Cecilia's Hall?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Museum Services Manager at the University of Edinburgh, and within that I have the absolute privilege and joy of looking after three different cultural venues, one of which just up the road from here is St Cecilia's Hall, Scotland's oldest concert hall, and in there we also now have a fraction of the university's musical instrument collection.
It's a beautiful visit. I've been looking to get in there, and you have some lovely events and celebrate that fantastic musical history. The oldest concert hall. I mean, it's wonderful to have that as part of the offering, the heritage offering here.
Yeah, it's Georgian building, so it was opened in 1763.
Okay, fantastic. And the other museums that are in that?
Yeah, we have at the library, which you visited earlier in the series, we have an exhibition gallery, and then we also have the Anatomical Museum over behind McEwen Hall.
Fantastic. So we're here tonight with a theme, HEAL, and I've chosen this wonderful venue known to us both because it's part of an initiative that I know that you've worked hard to develop for the student body at the University of Edinburgh, all about well-being through engagement with culture. It's called Prescribe Culture.
Yes.
As you know, I used to be a GP, so I know firsthand what it's like to offer what's commonly termed social prescribing. I was often referring patients to the wonderful Art Link in Edinburgh, who, for folk who would find it difficult to engage with museums and galleries solo, offer a befriending service to take people for that bit of cultural engagement. And it was very striking how real was the benefit of that experience for people. So it's been a joy to be part of the initial bit of steering for this Prescribe Culture event. Would you like to give us a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, sure. So Prescribe Culture is
almost.
Prescribe Culture is a heritage-based non-clinical support for, it was originally started for students at the University of Edinburgh, and the idea was because social prescribing, as you know, is about sort of helping people find something that matters to them in life, and so it's very useful for people who are maybe having some issues with anxiety or depression or any sort of impact from a sense of loneliness. So I think people find it very odd that university students can be lonely, but they really can. So we just sort of brought social prescribing to the university population through our heritage collections, and we really just use them as a foundation to bring like-minded people together, and they just make their own connections to the world around them through that.
It's an absolutely wonderful initiative, and I know that directly a lot of students have found it incredibly helpful. Yeah. Now we're in front of the Scottish Poetry Library. Do you want to say a little bit about how the wonderful people here have engaged with Prescribe Culture?
So one of the programmes that's available is Programme 6, and it is essentially 90 minutes for 6 weeks in a row, and the Scottish Poetry Library were very kindly one of the cultural partners in the city.
So cultural partners, you've been linking in with different heritage and culture hubs, if you like, throughout the city, and offering students an opportunity to visit with a programme.
So the students will spend a little bit of time looking at some of the collection, in this case beautiful Scottish poetry collections, and then they have that very important sort of 10-15 minutes of social tea and coffee, and then they will do a hands-on activity afterwards, but it is inspired by what they have seen in the collection or the site.
Fantastic. So other partners in that particular collection, would you like to mention some of those?
So the Botanic Gardens, St Giles Cathedral, the National Library, the National Galleries, the National Museums are all in there, and obviously the university's own museums and galleries as well. So those are the big...
We've got a particularly rich offering in this city, haven't we?
Spoiled for choice.
We are, but as we go across with Concrete Designs to Thrive to the 7 cities across Scotland, we'll be looking for those opportunities as well. One of the wonderful things to be here, and perhaps we can take a little walk, is that this way we have the crags, which we spotted from St John's Street when we were outside Charteris Land looking at art in the urban landscape. And we're approaching a wonderful garden, and I think that tells something of the well-being that's associated with just looking and engaging with our natural landscape in any city, and also the built environment. And that's very key to what Concrete Designs to Thrive, subtitled Places and Spaces for Living Well, will be about. Now, not to reduce it to biography, but I did encounter depression for the first time in my life when I was a student. And it's not an uncommon problem for all the reasons one might think. I remember the head of the sports department in what was then called Freshers Week standing up and saying, you develop the habits of your life in those first few years at university. And that, I held on to that, but I was rubbish at sports. But I wasn't disengaged with heritage and culture. In fact, one of the reasons I came to Edinburgh was the rich cultural offering that was here. So we'll pause as the traffic's crossing.
Let the cyclists by.
And the cyclists as well. We've come up from the Crichton's Close, where the Scottish Poetry Library is, and we will take our chances and cross the Canongate. That gives me an opportunity to talk about the naming of this incredible stretch of Edinburgh called the Royal Mile. It is Castle Hill at the top, where we saw the Outlook Tower, the Long Market, the old marketing bits near the castle, the High Street with the cathedral and everything, this bit, the Canongate, and right down to Holyrood. And so we've come off the Canongate, and we're talking about well-being in student life. You've done some very interesting research about the effects of lockdown on well-being of students. Should we talk a little about that?
So essentially, there was a big piece of research done over the past year, and it was looking at how the physical closure of university campuses impacted on the students' well-being. And for many students, even senior students, if you like, they are going, some of them were back home, so they may have had lots of other duties, if you like. They may have been caring for siblings because parents are home working, siblings to be looked after. Many of them were because they're young. Many of them were sent out to sort of do the messages for the neighbours and everything. So there were a lot of extra asks on them in addition to their studying.
Sure.
And generally the whole fear of COVID and that disruption. So there was a lot of additional worries in their mind. And some of them, a small percentage, thrived. So, you know,
Sure.
different things for different people.
I think that's really interesting that we all develop different coping mechanisms
Yes.
as we encounter different things in life. And sometimes it's useful to not jump in too quickly and let communities and individuals develop their coping mechanisms too.
Yeah.
For those who have found it more tough, the Prescribe Culture, well, we've got a new batch of students arriving.
We do.
What's in store?
So first off, during Welcome Week, we are
Welcome
going to,
Week.
Welcome Week,
Thank you.
which is
Yep.
now a Welcome Month actually.
Okay.
But in there we have a social prescribing fair, which hopefully you will
Yes,
be a part of,
we're
and we
looking to
will
do
get
forward
them
to do
out
a
walking.
Walking by design during that, yep.
Yeah, introducing them to the various cultural outlets that are in the city and the various book clubs and the theatres and places where they can sort of engage in their leisure time. But also things like Park Run, making them aware where these are, because those are free and they also have a social aspect to them, as well as the sort of the physical well-being. But yeah, there's that, and then we're hoping to get some of our online events that have been happening back into real people on person on site.
Fantastic. So look, these are available for anyone to tune into on the University of Edinburgh site
Yep.
under Prescribe Culture, and
Yes.
I'd recommend folk do that.
Yep.
And I'm excited about helping out when it comes to
Good.
this. So look, that head of sports who stood up and spoke to me and thought, and I was left thinking, okay, what habits am I going to develop?
Yeah.
We've got a head of culture in your good self who's helping to offer an alternative.
Yes.
And it's very welcome. Speaking of lockdown, we're actually locked out. And we've come across the Canongate to Dunbar's Close Garden, and Ruthanne and I, as I say, know the joy of a good walk. And one of the special legacies of Patrick Geddes was his conservative surgery of the slum, which was the old town in late 19th century Edinburgh. This is one of the areas that was cleared to create a small garden. And it's a very beautiful little oasis, remodeled in 1979 in the manner of a 17th century garden, as would have been. So we can't get in this evening, but ahead of tomorrow evening, we'll offer you some glimpses of Dunbar's Close through stills and movie footage. So thanks for joining us this evening. Ruthanne, thanks so much for spending time talking to us. That's wonderful to hear more about your work. Please join us tomorrow evening when we'll be looking at the notion of play in the urban landscape. Thanks very much.